Hey everybody, it's Matt Avery here. Welcome back to another Timer Tip Tuesday. Today we're going to be going through RaceDay scoring real time version 5. So some updates that we think are really important for you to know about for the version 5 of RaceDay scoring, which just recently came out. So we're going to be going through a few of the major points and some things that are coming soon on the horizon. So we'll get started here in just a minute, like we always do. I like to make sure that everybody is here before we get going too far. Session is recorded as always today. And if you do want to follow along the slides, I did add a link in the chat area. If you wanted to go follow along there, you should be able to. And then, as always, if you have any questions, use the questions panel, and I have Soren and James in the back end, and they'll be able to respond to your questions and bring them up to me in case they'd be relevant to everyone on the call. Looks like people are trickling in, so should be able to get started now. So let's get going. So we're going to be going through a few things, mostly spending time on the performance improvements that have come with version 5. Then going through some specific features that we've added that we really like for version 5, and then just going over a few things on the horizon. So version 5, we've been talking about this for a long time because we've had a big problem, some limitations with the way that the software was originally written. And I'll give you a breakdown and try to explain it as simply as possible. I know not all of us are developers, so I want to make sure that everybody understands why this is important. It was originally written in a language called JavaScript, and it used a browser-based database, so like a Chrome browser, what you use to go to RunSignup.com. The issue with this was basically things are single-threaded, and what that means is it's like traffic. If there's one road and every process that happens has to get completed one by one, and if anybody's waiting in the back of the line, they have to wait in order for their process to be completed. So this usually works fine for most applications, but when you have a large data set and a lot of complicated calculations like scoring software, it can cause issues where the user interface would actually seem like it's locked up or frozen because it's one of the cars in the back waiting for one of the cars in the front to finish. So it's behind an 18-wheeler trying to do all your scoring calculations. So that's a limitation because JavaScript is single-threaded. It's one lane, basically. Additionally, the data storage that we use, the browser-based database, was prone to corruption, and so there were some potential issues that could happen there. So we've replaced those with Rust to replace JavaScript for part of our software, and SQLite, which is just a better, more stable database platform. So this whole process started of replacing the scoring system with Rust started in August 2024. We started replacing other parts of the software actually in 2023. The announcer feed was the very first thing that we rewrote in Rust. But starting in August of 2024, we actually ripped out our entire scoring code and replaced it entirely in Rust. So 515 files were changed with 88,000 new lines of code added. And that resulted in a complete rewrite of our read processing, filtering, and handling of all of our scoring data. It's a compiled language, so it's a lot faster. What that means is that it runs actually closer to the hardware of your computer, so closer to the processor means it's going to be faster. It has multi-threaded functionality, so there's no longer one lane, it's multiple lanes, so it can break up the processes and do different things all at once. It has memory safety, it ensures that it's safe and stable, and it's just a more robust and reliable architecture. So this has been another point in our venture towards building a faster, more stable, and more scalable system. You should notice now you'll never run into issues like you may have in the past where the user interface feels like it's locking up if you have a lot of reads coming in or you recalculated all of the reads or something like that. So this is a pretty big, significant change. Obviously, we spent a lot of time doing this. It's been 6-7 months of one of our best developers working through all of this. So it's really critical to us to have a stable solution for all of our customers out there using our software on a weekend and daily basis. So just know we put a ton of effort into this. This all results in faster scoring, quicker results, especially for larger races, a more responsive user interface, no more freezing or delays, enhanced reliability for the new database. It's just more stable and more accurate data. And it's more scalable. We can handle larger races and just a better user experience. It feels more smooth. Things aren't locking up as you are using it for large events. So moving on to some more features, the big thing for V5 was this architecture, lift, but we did actually add some cool new features recently that I did want to talk about. Number one is real-time data checks. So one of our big priorities in 2025 is talking more about real-time. What does that mean to timers? How does it help you? How does it make your event days better and easier to manage? So in this version 5, we've added default data checks. So you may have used data checks, they're completely custom, to write basically a filter to say, give me everybody who meets these conditions. So it's a really nice and flexible system, and Soren does a great job of teaching people how to set all of these up and comes up with great ideas of how we could use them for all sorts of different scenarios. But what we wanted to do was build out a few default data checks to make timers want to actually try and explore it on their own. So we did this. We added a few that I'll talk about in a minute. We've added a real-time dashboard widget for data checks. So what this means is that on the dashboard now, you'll see a list of all of the data checks that have participants in them. So what that means is you'll be able to check in really quickly in real time and see, hey, there's 20 people out there with a missed split or whatever you wrote your data checks to be. The default ones will be things like, hey, you've got some people with a missing gender or age, but I'll talk about that later. The next thing is we've updated the raw reads view a bit. It allowed you to completely customize the way it looks and feels, so you can change what columns show and the order of columns. We know that there's a lot of data on that page, and it's critical as a timer to be able to troubleshoot the data effectively. And when you have a ton available to you, it's a little bit difficult to manage sometimes. So we just made this a little more flexible and customized to meet your business needs. Some timers need the time of day in a 24-hour format. Some timers don't need a 24-hour format, for example. Some never deal with chip codes, so why do we need to show that? Things like this, and we made it so you can customize it once and apply it to all races going forward via a global setting. It's a really nice feature. We hope makes your life a little bit easier. And we've added the ability to do participant filters for age groups. This is a pretty neat feature that came out in the last update, basically allowing you to say, we have all these really nice filters for participant data. You can say, select everybody that meets these conditions and do a top finisher category based on that. But we've never had it for age groups. So now what you can do is actually say, hey, everybody who said that they were an elite should not go into an age group. So now that feature is available, and you can do anything you want with the age groups. If there's other creative uses of it you might find, feel free. So these are the real-time data checks that we've added. We've updated a few things. We made them obviously easier to find. They used to be hidden away in the data check, data actions panel, our page. You'd have to click 3 or 4 times to get to them. Now they're right there on the dashboard via a widget. And the updates are, the counts are updating in real time. So as participants go through the course, and maybe you have a missed split one or you have a suspicious times one, those counts are going to update as the reads are processed. So it's really neat. You can just sit and check in on all of these different checks as you have them set up. And it's going to make your life a lot easier. So you can quickly click into any of the data checks to use them, to adjust any information on a participant that you might need to. We made the interface a little bit easier as well. You can maybe have seen in the little GIF here on the side, when you click into an existing data check, we no longer show the big giant panel at the top of all the filters. It's just hidden away because you don't need to see all the filtering right away. What you need to see is the data. So now that panel's collapsed by default, but if you add a new one, obviously it's going to show it to you. So again, I said before we have these ready to use data checks as defaults. So they're things like missing age, missing gender, and a few others. So basically just some pre-canned ones that you can use. But it's really nice is you can actually use them as a starting point via this data check template system. So that just allows you to start from a template, and then it'll be a little bit easier to get going with these. One of the really nice predefined data checks that we have here is the suspicious times data check. So if you're a race director user, this is very similar to Roger's suspicious times report. It's just going to show you everybody in any event that has an age grade over 90%. So this is going to give you an idea of, hey, maybe this person didn't complete the full course if they, had a 95% age grade, or maybe they're a world record holder and they showed up to your little race. But no, so this will be a nice, quick and dirty way to see if there was a mistake or someone registered in the wrong category or something like that. Next, that raw reads view customization. Like I said, many people may not need to see all of this data. It's useful in some cases, but not in others. So you can clear out that clutter, hide any fields that you don't need to see for this particular race or your particular company based on the chip system you use. You can customize each race individually if you'd like, but you also can save these to a defaults area and via that Save Global Settings button. And that will basically be make it so that each new race you build on this computer will have that default applied to it. And you can customize from there if you want, but that default will be applied going forward. So this makes your life a little bit easier when troubleshooting. You don't see all the data at once that you don't need. So we're just giving you more control over the data so you can see the data that you need, how you want it. So a few things that are coming next, and this is like pretty short term within the next few weeks or by the end of the month, I'd say. Aggregate team scoring updates. We got a couple of changes that are coming to aggregate team scoring. Number one is this custom aggregate team scores feature. So this is, we found a few examples of different people needing an inverted style of team scoring, where instead of it being the team with the lowest amount of points wins, it's the team with the highest amount of points wins. And then the point calculation is typically something like 1,000 minus X, where X is the placement, or X is the gender place, or X is the age group, so on and so forth. So that's the the basic version of it. But we've also given you a way to upload a table where you'd say, hey, position 1 is 5,000 points, position 2 is 4,050 points, whatever it is. You can completely make this custom if you need to, because we also found some instances of people needing a totally custom system. Additionally, you can say something like, hey, it's going to go, everybody in the top 100 gets a point based on the calculation, and everyone after that gets some set value, a participation point, for example. And then next, aggregate team scoring default report changes. So we had a lot of customers struggle getting started with aggregate team scoring and having complaints about the usability of the results online, because in the past you had to always create 2 reports, one overall report and one team finisher report. And the team finisher report has to be published to RunSignup to create the team standings at RunSignup. But then you end up with 2 result sets, one of everyone and one of just the team members. So we're changing over how we're doing our default reports for standard aggregate. This is not talking about cross country. This is just standard aggregate, where it'll be one report that will include all the team information and the age group information. So you could have one result set that generates the age groups and the team standings for you by default. Now, there's still going to be times where you have to, customize things. If you have multiple team types in your scored event and you want a breakdown by team type, you're going to still have to build those manually. But if you have your basic kind of, 5K with social teams or a corporate cup with your corporate teams, one team type, it'll be really simple. You just, build your race as normal, set up team scoring, and the report that's created for you will work for age groups and it'll work for team scoring. It'll include everybody, including team members, but obviously only those in the team will show up in the team standings. So this will be a nice improvement, making your setup a little bit easier, and especially better for people who are new to RaceDay scoring, because having to set up the additional report was a little confusing for most people. Next is this cool feature we're adding. We're calling real-time dynamic adjustments. So basically, the concept is you get a defined deduction or adjustment for each, you know, based on some other data. So the common example is like you get a 30-second deduction for each donut you've eaten. So you could base this on a custom question or a custom field. And you can do all sorts of different things. You could have, donuts eaten is one. You could have a penalty where you get a minute off for every, for maybe it's an obstacle run. If you don't do an obstacle, you get a minute off, and for each obstacle you miss or you don't complete, you get another minute off. So you can have a custom field tracking how many you missed, and then the system will automatically apply the adjustments based on the custom question value. So this will be really neat because it'll work not only within RaceDay scoring, but throughout all of our applications. So you could use the RaceDay check-in app, for example, to update the participant information of how many donuts each person has eaten. And then that data will sync to RunSignup and back down to RaceDay scoring, and then the adjustments will automatically be applied. So this is really neat. I'm sure that we'll come up and hear about some really interesting use cases that we didn't even think of. But this is going to be really nice, I think, going forward. And then next, we're going to be adding in some more improvements to data checks. We think this is a really cool feature, so we want to add in some more defaults. A few of them that we're going to add are find me anybody who has a missing start read. So you're doing a chip score race, and you want to see anybody who didn't have a start read accepted, but they did have a finish read. Maybe they ended up in the wrong start. They need to be dealt with in some way. Another one is the missing split read. So we're going to be adding a check to be able to see, hey, find anyone who has completed less segments than we expect them to. So we expect a triathlete to do 5 segments, but they've only done 4. So show me anybody who's met that condition. And then you can look into what went wrong with them. Maybe you want to disqualify them. Maybe you want to change their registration event, so on and so forth. A few others coming a little bit later are going to be the ability to check and see if a backup time was selected for this person. So show me a list of anybody who had a backup time selected or only a backup time selected, for example. Might be useful to check and see maybe there was a mistake done with your backup system, just to verify that things are all good. And then a wave jumper report. This is a kind of idea where you want to be able to identify anybody who looks like they started in a wave, they didn't actually register, or they started in a wave, in a different wave than the one they registered for. And this uses basically a few things. The chip offset is one, and a few other little things. So this will be an interesting one. Next, adding the data check tooltip to the toolbar at the very top of the race, and exporting, importing, and printing data checks. So just giving you some more functionality in data checks. And then obviously we've got a whole ton on the deck to get to eventually as well. These are the ones that are coming up in the near short term. So I'm just going to show you a couple of slides of the features coming next. This is just a quick view of what it's looking like right now with the custom aggregate team scoring rules. So on the left here, the users uploaded a table of, they've defined a function. So they said, start with 10, subtract 1 per place, and then there's a minimum of 1. So this is saying first place gets 10 points, and then with each placement, I subtract 1 from that. So 10, 9, 8, 7, so on and so on and so on, all the way down to 1, and then everybody after 10 gets 1 point. On the right, they've uploaded a spreadsheet, and in the spreadsheet, it's a basic, simple, position 1, 100, 2, 500, 3, 3, 3, 3, so on and so forth. And this is, their way of totally customizing the point assignments for this team scoring method. And then you can actually come in and change them if you needed to update one off. Instead of having to go back to the spreadsheet and re-import it, you can just edit in place right here. Really nice. And this just shows you how it could look with the custom points on a report. Next, data checks on the toolbar. So we really liked how the functionality worked for data checks on the dashboard. So you could see the data, you could see the counts, you could see the numbers, and then you could click into each report and jump right to it and fix up what you need to. But we figured, why not try and make that even more accessible by putting it into the toolbar? So we're moving away from the data issues feature, which kind of was the initial idea behind data checks, but it didn't really work very well and didn't let you enact on the data the way that data checks can. So we're moving away from data issues and replacing that little tab bar with a tooltip for data checks. So you can just hover over it and you can jump right to the data check. So that means no matter what screen you're on, if you're managing segments, you're on corrals, whatever, you can quickly check in on your data checks to see if there's a problem and then jump right to them. And yeah, I think that's pretty much going to cover it for me today. Any questions before we finish up?
So Avery, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Great. So we did want to just talk a little bit about our process, give you a little bit of insight here. Again, version 5, as Avery outlined, was a major amount of research and development that started 2.5 years ago. So this summer, we spent quite a bit of effort to move the whole scoring engine into this compiled language called Rust. So the question comes up, of course, this is basically like a new piece of software in some regards. What are our processes? So everyone should know that we have Roger Bradshaw, which is part of our team. He's got 30 years of experience in doing all types of races. So what he built for us is a platform of 30 different events that use every different type of equipment that's out there and all the different scenarios that he's run into. So it's a battery of tests that we have built. So with that battery of tests that he built, and he did it all based upon his race director. So these are all events that he's timed in race director. So we call it the gold standard, and we can compare those numbers and the exact placements and times against what he has coming out of race director. So what we do with that battery of tests is we do two things. One is we have an automated framework. So every time we do a build, which as everyone that knows on this call, we put builds out almost on a weekly basis. We always go through that battery of automated tests before we release you for that week build. So there's an automated framework that goes based upon those 30 scenarios. But when we have a big release like this, we go much deeper. And Roger spends a good amount of time doing what's called a full regression, where he's looking at other kind of use cases based upon those 30 scenarios. He's looking at things that happen before and after, and it's a little bit deep, but he basically goes through what we call full regression. In addition to that, Avery and Soren are doing a lot of testing based upon their knowledge and their experience. So all that took place in December. And then we move into January, and we did a beta process with a limited number of timers. You should know that as of this date, 210 events have been scored, and that's not scored events. That's 210 races across the country have been scored with RaceDay scoring version 5. This weekend, we have already 45 races that have been set up to be scored on RaceDay scoring version 5. So again, timers are setting things up again for this weekend, but know that 210 events have already happened on this software. We haven't encountered anything, but again, anytime you write software, there's going to be bugs. So we always we have a process to address those things quickly when they come up. But I think, we've had 2 good weekends here. You should feel very, very confident in RaceDay scoring version 5 and moving forward for your particular timing company. So just wanted to kind of cover again a little bit of the insights about how we do software, what our processes are, and how we try to ensure quality. We have a mantra on our team. If timers don't have a second chance. Like, you're in the middle of the Saturday morning, the software has to work. There is no wait till Monday fix. And so, we put a lot of effort into making sure that you guys can get through your weekend and not have to wait for a hot fix. So I just wanted to kind of address that aspect. Anything you want to add on, Avery?
No, that's exactly right. I mean, we really understand how critical it is to have support staff on already, and the next step, I think, is by having a developer on call, ready in case anything does go bump in the night, as we like to say. And we're able to deploy fixes within like 15 minutes now, if it comes to that. I haven't had to do that in a while, but so just know our support team is ready to help you out. Use that get help button to it, and if there is a real issue, we have an escalation path right to our dev, and we can get a fix out really quick if that's necessary. But again, we haven't had that in a few weeks actually. Having to do a weekend build up. But yeah, and our testing protocol is pretty rock solid, and we're more automated testing in the future actually as well.
Great. So just a couple things to socialize. Again, been another long journey, Fred, on series scoring. Avery will address that. Just people want to know when our series scoring and what's going on with that. Good.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
series scoring has been a big project, and Fred's been very patient. So we got a lot of it done. So we now have the ability to do the syncing between RunSignup and RaceDay scoring to keep track of all of the participants across all the series and series events and allow you to actually manage and merge the series participant data in RaceDay scoring. So if you have two people who registered, one was Matt Avery, one was Matthew Avery, they would actually show up in RaceDay scoring as a potential duplicate, and you can merge the data together in RaceDay scoring. This is all being worked on currently, but all of the back end work is done, and all of the front end and RaceDay scoring is done. So we're now pretty close to the endpoint. We have all these point calculation methods done, and we're testing the upload of result data to the series dashboard. But we are trying to get it out. I would say May is our real goal. We want to try and get it out by May. I can't make any promises, but that's when we'd love to have it by.
And then I'm kind of forgetting the roadmap where we are on the the report that shows how many people are still needing to be completed on a given sport event and a given age group and all that.
Yeah. So the idea is we're finishing off some of these data check additions. The developer who's been working on the data check updates is going to be moving on next to some more automated testing functionality for us, and then their next big feature is going to be the age group reports that are showing you how they are filled out in real time, the progress of the age group reports. So that'll be their next task.
And then a question came up again about version 5 with hardware. At this point, I think the main thing is your hardware should actually just be fine. You don't need to really do anything different. Based on most of what you had, you should see the existing hardware that you're using is actually performing a lot better now as we moved that scoring calculation work out of the browser. So don't really have any, there's no specifications that we're saying you have to have this type of hardware in order to run RaceDay scoring version 5.
So yeah, total time scoring is actually available on RunSignup now. That was added fairly recently, but you are able to do that, and you are able to say you want to require a certain number of events in order to be shown in the standings. And I think that's pretty much everything for today. I saw a couple of questions about compatibility, wondering if there's going to be issues upgrading to V5. There aren't going to be any problems with upgrading existing data or existing races to version 5. There could be a problem if you had to downgrade back for whatever reason, but we don't foresee anyone needing to do that. But for now, I would say upgrade and just back up your races once you do the upgrade, so you have them on the cloud and be able to restore those if you ever needed to. But no difference in terms of the upgrade path. All right, and I think that's it for us, guys. Thanks again for coming. We're going to keep building new features for you all. Let us know again if you have any feedback on how it's working for you or how you're using it. We love to hear great stories about how people are using our features. They're so flexible, and we really like to showcase when a timer figures out a cool way to handle a situation. So let us know if you have any of those creative uses of these features, and we'd love to highlight you. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions. RaceDay@runsignup.com. We'll talk to you later. See you next time.